Y'all can call that spiritual awakening if you want to, but something just happened to me. I hope I can hold on to that. Don't let me forget. I mean,
I'm Karen. I came through November 2006, and I'm going to steal Habita's tag. It really summarizes what this marriage does for me. Is it makes it okay to be me. Whatever that looks like on any given day, and it will change. It's a place where it's safe for me to be wherever I am at that moment. My grandson has come through also. He came through with Ivan. And I gave Jamal to the community because I was worried about him. I don't think it's a safe place for black kids to be in Memphis, especially young boys. So anyway, that's a decision I don't think I will ever regret. Because as far as I'm concerned, Jamal belongs to the community. And I needed him to be in a place where he could get some guidance from men who would care about him. So, I'm in.
For me, Terrence is my name. And I went through April of 2011. And it was based on became friends with Al on Facebook. And there was a post that he made about it that intrigued me, piqued my interest. Well, years ago, I read a book called Betrayal by Any Other Name, by a guy named Dr. Khalid Al Mansour. And in the book, there was a chapter called Group Multiple Personality Syndrome. And his synopsis was that people of color in America suffer from a group multiple personality syndrome. And he made the comparison between civil and the psychology piece. He said that based on what happened on the plantation as a survival mechanism, that this was developed. But after being taken off the plantation, they still had it and it didn't serve them, or it didn't serve us. And he suggested as a tool for healing will be group hypnosis. So I read that book years ago, and all I had in my mind was that I want to be part of something that worked in that area. Well, I saw Al's post on Facebook, and I was like, that's it right there. I'm like, I mean, it may not, the hypnosis part, but that's it. It's dealing with what happened to our ancestors on those plantations and correcting those issues within us so that we don't pass on to, that toxicity to generations that come after us. So I went through. I said, this is it. I'm going through. And I had high expectations for it, of what it would be. And when I say it far exceeded whatever I could have thought. And I had the pleasure of that April, that was a year later after I went through, Brother Eric came through with about 6 or more of my friends. And that was like one of the best feelings of my life. And what I realized is that things that I want to do outside in the community, so-called, that we're building a real community here. And with that, I'm in.
I say.
So I'd like to share that we started off as a men's group. And I was one of the first 6 women, along with that sister in that white blouse right there, to be initiated by all men. It was a unique experience.
It was so much fun.
So I'm not a joiner. No groups. I went to church, but I went to Catholic church, so we don't count like the regular day clubs. So I never liked being a member of groups. And so since my husband had a hand in starting this, and the men decided it was important that women be in here, he solicited me, my dear friend, since I was 12, who just recently passed, and she got G, and we got his mother and a couple other women, so there's 6 of us. Had you asked me, did I need anything like this, I would have said no. What I found is that I needed it really, really bad. All of us, I come from a family which is generally the place where we get our first wounding. If you didn't, you are unique in the universe. So that is the basis on which I say this is for everyone. Everyone. Every single one of us. Especially those of us who don't think we need it. So, beginning my process of healing, because it's not a one-time experience, what Inward Journey does is it gives you a big boost. It's like you can't get the Underground Railroad does is give you a big boost. We have had psychologists come through who say they couldn't accomplish what we accomplished in 2 years of individual therapy. It's about healing. And I don't want to scare anybody away because I know so-called black folks are kind of afraid of that sort of thing. And it's nothing to be afraid of because what you fear has already happened.
I'm toured in some looks and perhaps wondering how this happened. What do y'all do? And, you know what I'm saying? And so I just want to just open up now discussion about what we are and what we're not. First of all, we're not a religious organization. We have no doctrine. We have no dogma. We have no belief system. You don't have to swear on nothing. And believe it or not, we don't even have a leader. Now, I know that's hard for colored folks to believe. I remember I had a good friend out in Denver. By the way, we are a national organization. Started here in Memphis, quietly, without fanfare. We found out the worst thing you can do is invite the press, call a press conference before you plan what you're going to do. This is what Negroes do. They call a press conference and say, well, we're about to have a riot. And then they get mad because they think somebody told on them. You know, I mean, we do it all. We're going to meet Sunday and march.
Yeah.
This is what, you know, so what we took our time and quietly studied. We spent tens of thousands of our own dollars and taught ourselves different techniques of healing and encountering work and organizing work. And we, over a period of time, built up a stream of processes to become what became the Underground Railroad Training Odyssey. But what we are not is a cult. We don't fit the definition of a cult. We don't have, like, what we'll ask you to do is not share what you went through on the initiation. But that's not because it's a secret. What we don't want you to do is spoil it for somebody else that wants to come through. But we don't swear you to see if you tell, we're going to come and get you in there. You know, it ain't about that. It is about our recognition from studying our own selves first, and then studying history, and studying the mistakes that people of color made since they've been here, to make sure first we don't do that. You don't have to replicate mistakes. All you have to do is find them and say, okay, we know what not to do. Then we begin to look at, well, let's find out what works best and apply the best practices. And so, two things that we identified. We said we want to identify, well, let me go back. And she speaks of this all. This is my spouse, or I'm her spouse. And virtually almost everybody in my family has been through it, including my mother, my father, all 6 of my children, all of my grandchildren except the very young ones, uncles, cousins. I mean, it's a whole lot of us that's gone through, and so I wanted to say that first. But I want to get back to, you know, when you're around, some of you officers may have been in these circles and people have on dashikis and kufes and, you know, we talking African talk. And I used to hear this all the time because I've always been involved. I was a little more militant than most people I knew. But anyway, they would talk about, you see, my brother, we must go back to the motherland, and I was good. I mean, I'm not anti that. But I kept asking this question. You mean to tell me you're going to skip all the way back to the motherland? Well, what about this thing, this event called slavery? You just going to wipe that out. In other words, that don't happen. I'm going to put on a kufe and a dashiki and say I'm from somewhere over here. First of all, that is a dishonorment of my ancestors. You mean to tell me I got some people in my bloodline that went through that event so I could be alive today, and I'm going to disrespect them by saying you don't even exist? You don't even count? That didn't make sense to me. That just didn't make sense. And because we knew very little about that event, we only knew basically what had been written by somebody else to tell us what it was. And they will infer, if you read it, they will infer that, listen to the language. On plantations, don't plantations sound like something nice. Magnolias and mint juleps and, you know, like, oh, it's also down here in darker lands. You know what I'm saying? But them was damn prisons. See, first of all, we had to think about, listen, every one of us at some point in time in our lives will call our ancestors slaves. We wasn't taught that. How am I a slave and you come get me from my home, where I'm free now? I'm living in the interior of Africa. I ain't bothering nobody. You come and kidnap me, take me, put me in somewhere called the door no return or something they call it now, put me on a ship, bring me over here, beat my ass. I watch you hang and burn people. They like to cut off black people's genitalia too for some reason. They got a strange fascination with that. And then you call me a slave. Sounds like I'm a prisoner. I'm here against my will. And so we began to try to say, well, look, we need to explore this and investigate this another way. And so some of the things we began to find out is, boy, there had to be some real courageous people to endure that. That was a hard time. That's a hard time. So we decided that one of the heroics, or some of the heroics that people of color participated in attaining their own liberty. That's not freedom. Escaping from a physical condition is not freedom. That's liberty. Freedom is a whole different concept. But at least they participated by catching this thing called the Underground Railroad. That's why we named it the Underground Railroad. It's in honor of those people, even though they were helped and aided sometimes by so-called white people. But when you really study this thing, what you're going to find out about the United States, at one time, about 80% of the people that was in this, it was England at the time, about 80% of those people were enslaved, imprisoned people. And most of them didn't look like us. But that's another story. I don't want to get off on that. This was then created to first take the sting and the shame out of having our ancestors have gone through that, and then the shame having been passed forward to us. You know, while we alter our hair, bleach our skin, this whole concept of self-hatred that got passed down. And so we wanted to undo the psychological damage that had been taught into us, literally taught into us, because even our school systems, if you look at how they teach about slavery, they got white women teaching your children about slavery. What can a white woman teach your child about slavery? That is insane. And most of us don't even know nothing what it really was. So, what are you saying?
They make sure they teach.
Oh, seriously, let me explain. If you, this is not a conjecture on my part. She don't mind me telling you, she's a member of this organization. My mother was the former superintendent of curriculum and instruction for the Memphis Board of Education. She's currently a school board member. Right now, her name is Sarah Lewis. I ain't got no problem with that. She's the one that identified to me that by design, white women would come in the school system and initially try to teach kindergarten through 2nd grade. Did you hear me? That was by design. This is what they were given instruction to do. That was to get your babies when they're early, when they're most impressionable, to form an opinion about themselves and about you. And if you notice, all you have to do if you want any proof, just look at the city you live in. It's the poorest city in the country, folks. I don't know how to impress this upon you, what that says. It has the worst school system in the state and perhaps in the country. And I want you to hear this. Your governor, your former governor, Phil Bredesen, I got it on tape, went on CNN and said, and I quote, "We deliberately dumbed the children in the state of Tennessee down to accept the No Child Left Behind funding from the federal government." Now that's fact, which tells me that some of you in this room were a part of that group that were deliberately dumbed down. It ain't your fault. I'm not being critical of you. It's just a fact. Well, we can try to paint this thing with rose-colored glasses, or we can clean those lenses off and look at reality. That's the only way we can change our condition. The first thing that I can change is in my circle of influence is me. Before I get to running out there talking about change in Memphis, in the world, I better take a hard look at myself to see just where Agent Smith is. Everybody know who Agent Smith is, don't you? Anybody don't know who Agent Smith is? Any of y'all ever see the movie The Matrix? Remember Agent Smith would, a guy be driving a truck and all of a sudden he'd do like this, and then another guy would come out. That was Agent Smith. Well, how you know you ain't got Agent Smith in you? How you know it wasn't planted in there when you stood up against your knowledge and said, "I pledge allegiance to the United States of America"? You didn't even know what you was pledging. You didn't know what allegiance meant. You just said it repetitiously until one day they told you, "You know, we want you to go kill some folks look a little bit like you. They brown-skinned folks. We want you to go kill them. Don't worry about what they did. We'll tell you about that later." And you found yourself in strange lands killing people that hadn't done anything to you. Don't tell me it didn't have an impact. It does have an impact. It still has an impact. What you have to have is some techniques, some mental technologies to help you or me to look at my own self. That's a lot harder than you'll ever imagine, folks. It's damn near impossible to do and validate by yourself. What we learn from spending all these hours and monies of training ourselves is you need validation, because the brain loves to lie. It loves to lie, loves to trick you. Seriously. The brain loves to lie. That's why magicians can fool you. You know, don't you like those tricks when magicians do sleight of hand? And you laugh at it. That's because the brain loves to be fooled. Well, do you understand that some people knew that and have known that a long time? You might want to look up guys like John Mesmer. Is that his name? You heard of Mesmer? You heard of Mesmerize? See, these people studied that, of how to fool people. Human beings are mammals, and listen to this, you ain't gonna like this, but they classify you as primates. Yeah, seriously. Now, they study group behavior. They don't care because you chose to do it different, or I chose to do it different. That's already predicted. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They know that out of so many studies, that 7 are going to go this way, 1 is going to stay right here, and 2 are going to go that way. They got something for your ass too. Now, unless you learn how to be invisible, that's what we endeavor to teach you, is how to be invisible. That's a whole different technique, because you can't announce to oppressors that you finna kill him. This is what I'm saying. This is a metaphorical murder. In order for me to create my world, I have to first deconstruct his world. If you build your world on his foundation, you ain't did nothing. Is this making sense, sister? Does this make sense to you? So I have to first deconstruct his world, and his world is in here. So I got to go in there and look at, well, how did he get to me? Well, what's the easiest way to get to me? It's in my family. Family of origin. You see, yeah, mama and them helped set me up. But I ain't mad at mama and them. Somebody set mama and them up. If you trace this back just a few generations, you're going to be in an institution called what? Slavery. Now, I want somebody to logically and creatively convince me something good came out of that. Now, I just want you to tell me, how can you go back 4 generations to one of the most heinous institutions on the planet and tell me, oh yeah, and this is how you benefited from that? I can't buy that. And what it did was, over a period of time, it morphed. Morph means change. And so now, the Underground Railroad is a vehicle. It is a device. It is an event that people attend, that choose, because it's all about freedom, to take a look at themselves, how their lives have been impacted by what, by whom, when, where, and then something that rarely happens. It's for somebody to ask you how to get out. Because we cannot tell you how to get out of your own enigma. You've had the answer all the time. You see, if we told you how to get out, we would be lying. What we can do is offer you some options. But that takes a very deft skill. It's nothing that you can just do. It's easy for me to stand in the pulpit and tell you, well, all you got to do is do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to be all right. Well, if that works, why do I have to tell you that every week, after week, after week, after week? It's impossible. I'm not disparaging church. I'm just saying some things work, some things don't. That's what the Underground Railroad is. It is a 3-day odyssey. Starts Friday evening at 4 o'clock. Sunday about 4. We hope you walking 2-3 feet off the ground. It'll be staffed by anywhere from 45 to 65 of the most brilliant, courageous people you'll ever meet in your life. From all over the country. We have centers in Memphis, Chicago, and Denver, Colorado, and Memphis, and members from Miami to Seattle. In fact, one member from Seattle will be here in October as a staff person. New Orleans, New York, Rochester, Chicago, Omaha, Nebraska, you name it. And again, I told you we're the best kept secret in town on purpose. On purpose. You'll learn that when you come through, you'll learn why. So, otherwise, if we shared with you, because all these people that shared my life changed, if we shared how we did it, if I told you everything that you would do from start to finish, the first thing you're going to tell me is, Al Lewis, you're a damn lie. That's the first thing you're going to tell me. You're going to say, I can't do that. But Sunday, I've never seen this fail on Sunday. People go, man, how'd y'all do that? How did y'all do that? Last thing I'll share is we don't take grants. I want y'all to hear that one again. We don't take no money from Pit High. We don't take no money from Federal Express or nobody. It's self-generated by our own income. That way can't nobody tell us how to roll. I want to be clear with that. We're not an extension of any other group. We can say no, and we don't care. And so we have some people here responsible for getting you to the underground. Brother Ivan is the assistant conductor for this training. This sister here, Sally, Kaplan, is our financial coordinator for the Underground Railroad. She's the person to see after the meeting if you choose, if you want some information or you choose to give her a check. Now, it's a $300 fee. And you say, well, that's really not a lot. I know another organization that does something a little similar. It's $650 to do it. It costs us approximately $3,500 to sponsor the event.
We pay.
And we have to pay individually to staff to offset the cost. If not, we couldn't afford it.
And I pay really joyfully.
Yeah. So we have to take off use, those that work, use our annual leave.
It's like you have to.
She takes a plane or a bus from Chicago, like these people be coming from all over the country. Now, if you choose to come in October, it's a special treat. It is our 20th year anniversary, and it is a regrouping of a lot of the original members, men and women, who, the guys that actually founded this thing will be coming from Allentown, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Chicago, Illinois, Virginia, where? New Brunswick, New Jersey, somewhere in Oklahoma. Patriot is coming in out of Oklahoma. So you would have the distinction of being initiated by what we'll call it a super staff, because of the level of experience that these brothers and sisters will be bringing. If I were to be initiated, this is what I would go through. I would want to experience this because it's such a very special time. And so with that, I'm going to step back out. I like to talk, but I ain't the leader. Let me be clear.
Yes, please. We got 9 minutes.
I've been sitting on this, and I've been hearing it. You're interested in kids, you have, yeah, you have daughters, I don't know, not this gentleman, but I see kids over here. And we had a post the other day, this is why I do this. This is why I do this. Because all in all, my old ass is almost out of here. Almost out of here. But I'm trying to create a place and a space for my children so that they don't have to go through the things that I've gone through. Now, when I say my children, my son is 35 years old. I'm almost ready to write him up. Almost. I'm thinking about my grandbabies. You know, I'm thinking about these little children that don't have a chance. Now, I do this so that I can be the best granddaddy they got, you know. And, you know, I'm still a work in progress. But I would like for you to be the best mother. I would like for you to be the best daycare center director when you get back for those children, because they ain't got nobody else. There is no one else. You heard what the schools are designed to do, take them from damn near birth and brainwash them. So we it. Last house. If we don't save our children, nobody. Their fodder. You know. Food, fodder. So when you make a decision to come, make a decision on who you're coming for. It's a lot easier for me. I had to make that decision when I first came here. I've never done the Underground, but there's a reason for that. But this is needed. I'm in with that.
You were.
My name is Jackie, and I am a member of Inward Journey.
6 minutes.
I am a member of Inward Journey, and I went through the Underground Railroad. I'm not sure what year it was, but I went through, and this Sunday, I was 3 feet off the ground. And so I'm glad to be back in. I'm in, and